Happy Migraine Awareness Month, everybody. I hope you're enjoying all the videos and information we have for you throughout the month. Lots more still to come. But today we're talking about diet. It's a really good tool in managing migraine. Whether you have food triggers or not, sometimes it can help, sometimes it doesn't do much, but it is worth trying out. Whether it's heal your headache or an elimination diet, there's plenty of things to try. And to help us talk about those today, we have Renee, Flynn, and Suzanne. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's introduce everybody to start with. Renee, tell us about yourself and your migraine.
Basically started getting migraines about 3 years ago, and they actually came on after a cold. So I got a cold and then I got a headache with that cold, and then the headache just kept getting worse even though the cold got better. And then that went on for about 2.5 years of just constant headaches, migraines every few days that would last a few days, and just, yeah, constant struggling. And then I actually got a spell of vertigo, and that inspired me to find the Dizzy Cook and then the Heal Your Headache diet, which I've been on since then. And
cool. We'll come back and talk about what the Heal Your Headache diet is in a bit, because that's a very, very popular topic around migraine in Australia land. Suzanne, tell us about you and your migraine.
I've had migraine attacks for probably 25 years now, maybe even 30 years. I've lost count, but they started off just, once every few months, and then a couple of times a year, and then they just sort of slowly got worse as I got older. And then after I had my girl child, I noticed that there was a real uptick in migraines, and they were just became monthly. And then once I hit the dreaded perimenopause, that was it. Like, all bets were off, and they became chronic pretty quickly. And so that's classified as, oh no, what is it? 15 headache days a month, with 8 of those being migraine headache.
Chronic, yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm even above chronic, so badge of honour there. After I came off the Emgality, my migraines are now here every single day, and I'm having to take Zomig to stay on top of them. So I don't know what happened there. That the Emgality, just as it came out of my system, I noticed my headaches got worse and worse and worse, and now they're migraines, I should say. Now my migraines are daily. So
that's no good.
Very interesting stuff. So, but I don't want to put anybody off trying it because I know that it works for a lot of people, but that's just my experience with it.
It didn't work for you, or you had bad side effects?
Didn't work, and I had horrendous side effects. Just the usual of weight gain and stuff, which I thought if it took away my migraines, I'd be happy with a bit of weight gain, no problem. But just other things, like I ended up with a frozen shoulder and really bad joint aches and pains, and literally I could hardly walk. And then I had all my digestive system just completely packed up. And
yeah,
I go into all the gory details. So I was one of those ones that it didn't work well for. So
and we do kind of emphasize the fact that the bottom 30% of people with in migraine won't get a good response from any one of the CGRPs. You should still try one of the other ones, because they do work differently. Particularly Aimovig works substantially differently to Emgality, Ajovy, and Vyepti, which is the new one, which will be out soon.
So bottom 30%, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, bottom 30%. So the top 30% are super responders. The bottom 30% don't respond, and the rest are kind of in the middle, around that 50 to 75%.
Trust me to be bottom
50%. All righty, Flinny, tell us. Oh, I did it again. I got to stop calling you Flinny. I don't know why I want to call you Flinny.
It's fine. My mum calls me Flinny.
It's because you're cute. All right, tell us about yourself and your migraine.
I've had migraine my whole life. I was first diagnosed maybe when I was 4 or something, and then it was diagnosed as well before 3 as when it first started presenting. It's probably been chronic my whole life, but it was came and went, but it was the definition where it's so many days per month, but it's been daily since I was 11. So that's been fun. And I have a salicylate intolerance that I have that's linked to my migraines that I'll be talking about.
Since you were 11.
Yes.
They're the stories that I got to go, yeah, you know me and my bad migraine, that's nothing. I at least had my childhood.
I know. I feel like you've got it worse than me though, because mine's just like standard. You've got like the brainstem migraine.
Yeah, but you know, I had my childhood.
Yeah.
Very happy to have you as part of the conversation. So did you do an elimination diet to find your salicylate intolerance?
I don't know if it was like technically an elimination diet. Basically, just went to a dietitian and they kind of said, right, we're going to test three things. They tested salicylates, amines, and glutamates. At the time, I didn't respond to like amines were fine. But now I've recently developed that, but I'm in denial because I like amine foods. But yeah, I'll talk about that more in a bit. But basically what they did, I'm not sure if it's technically an elimination diet. They basically just said, right, these are some foods that are really high in these chemicals. So just eat that for 2 weeks and see what happens. So for amines, I was eating like 2 bananas and half a family block of chocolate a day, which was fun. And then salicylates, I can't remember. It was just like fruit juices and everything. And I got sick very quickly. So it was very obvious what was the cause.
Yeah, so I've done a full belt elimination diet, which is, you know, like an RPAH elimination diet. And actually, it's a process I go back to every now and then. So that's where you go off everything except your basics for 4 weeks to clean your system out and reset. And then you challenge your salicylates, amines, glutamates, nitrates, sorbates, and a bunch of other things one by one.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a process, but I am a very big fan of it. I am intolerant to all kinds of things. Amines are my worst. Salicylates I'm actually okay with. In small doses. But sorbates are actually my worst. I refer to them as my kryptonite. They'll set me off every single time. It is worth checking out all of these different diet options. And Suzanne, what have you tried? What are your diets to try and help your migraine?
Just tried like a lot of the standard things, and I found that not having any sugar in my diet really does help my migraines. If I have too much sugar, my head will explode basically within 24 hours. And grains, if I stay off all grains, which is very hard to do. I mean, I do sneak in a bit of rice occasionally, but all grains will actually help. I get a lot of neck pain with my migraines. If I stay off all grains, that will like really dampen down. I also tried the one on, I won't mention any names because actually I can't even remember her name. She's on the internet and she's spruiking the, a migraine cure, and it's lots of salt, no carbs whatsoever, and even going as far as doing the carnivore diet. Tried that, but it was so complicated that it just about did my head in, and I didn't see any improvement anyway, so I basically just gave up on that. But I know that there seems to be quite a few people following her, so I don't know whether that works or not. And then I just avoid anything that is like expands my blood vessels, like caffeine. I know it constricts to start with, but then it expands your blood vessels. Alcohol definitely expands your blood vessels. So while I was on Emgality, I was like really enjoying myself and having a few drinks again, but that's sadly that's not happening. And anything that the doctors give me that actually expands your blood vessels will definitely cause a migraine in me. So any of the various supplements and migraine medications, anything that expands your blood vessels is no good for me. So
that's a pretty good rule of thumb, though. It's good you've been able to figure that out.
Yeah, I have been able to figure that out. Yeah. So even things like acidophilus and stuff like that, because that has an expansion mechanism to it, that will definitely give me a migraine. So yeah, anything that expands my blood vessels is out. So, but I'd love to look into the diets that you guys have done. It's just I don't know where to go and where to get the information. And
a dietitian.
Go to a dietitian, right? Okay.
Yeah, for the elimination diet, you do need to do it with a dietitian because there's lots of hidden chemicals in foods that are not really obvious. And it's actually like a really interesting way of learning about what's in food.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get to a point where you don't actually need to remember the rules because you actually understand, if you're looking at something and it's really soft and green, the likelihood is it's going to have salicylates through the roof. So you kind of anything that's really like rich in color, like really red, really green, that's salicylates.
So you think a dietitian as opposed to a naturopath?
Definitely a dietitian.
Okay.
Yeah, and like another thing is, even I like in a lot of food intolerance pages that I'm in, like even once people have like recognized what intolerance they have, there's so much misinformation out there, like different food lists of what you can and can't have. The RPAH like resources are generally like the standard like recommended ones. But that's another reason like I would say a dietitian is good because there's so much misinformation out there.
And the Friendly Food Cookbook, which is also produced by the RPAH Allergy Clinic, is fantastic because by its nature, it's quite low in all of those chemicals that could set you off, and they're actually really good recipes.
Okay, I won't forget that. That'll be next on my list.
I also have a cookbook. I think it's by Sue Dengate called Friendly Foods. And that's also has a lot of just low chemical recipes and also has gluten-free and dairy-free options in the recipes, which is great.
So you learn something new every day.
We actually did an interview with the person who created the elimination diet last Migraine Awareness Month. It's still on our YouTube account if you want to go and check it out.
I'll have to go look at it.
To learn about the Heal Your Headache diet, Renee, tell us about how you find out about through the Dizzy Cook, I presume.
Yeah, I think I found actually I went through all different types of treatments with medication and Botox and all of the general ones, and nothing seemed to work. So I was just Googling the crap out of headaches and diets and what else I could try. And I actually stumbled across the list on Google Images somehow. And I was like, well, I'm just going to try it because at that point I'd been having like daily vertigo for like a week and a half, I think. And to the point where I was just sleeping on the couch. I couldn't get up. I had to lay on one side and everything. And so I put myself on the diet, and within a week, like didn't have hardly any symptoms. I had like a mild headache. There was things that sort of made sense. Like I'd have a glass of orange juice, for example, and like instantly feel a headache. Or I went to Subway one day and got red onion and they loaded it on, and within 10 minutes I couldn't see. So there were just some really sort of clear signs that mine were very much diet related. And I've always had issues with food intolerances in the past with digestion and everything. And actually when I went to a doctor, probably when I was about 10, with stomach pains, I was having like fits because I felt so sick. They told me and my mum that it was stomach migraine, and at the time we both went, what are you talking about? And mum said basically I'm not giving my kid Nurofen every day because that's what he said to do. But linking back now, it makes sense. So yeah, the Heal Your Headache has definitely helped me. There's still a lot of things that are not on the no list that I can't have and are meant to be okay, and also things that are not meant to be okay that I can tolerate. So it's still a learning process and trying to figure out what my personal triggers are as well.
Yeah, so the Heal Your Headache diet is very much about reducing histamines. Hello, gorgeous. Oh, that is a beautiful cat. We have this running joke in Migraine Australia that you can't do a video unless there's an animal in the shot. It's just the way we go. Yeah, so it's about histamines and amines.
Tyramine.
And thiamine are kind of part of histamines. So yeah. And did you find it really hard, Renee, to follow the lists?
I did. So the first I would say probably 6 months, I was constantly getting these random migraine attacks that I would be like, I'm following this diet, what's going on? And then I'd look back through the list and see that, oh, I wasn't meant to eat that. That would make sense. And through that is kind of, I guess, how I reintroduced some things as such, because I'd accidentally eat them and then find out that they were a trigger. It is definitely still hard, but it's getting easier with time, and just trialing things. So it's sort of it's a personal memory rather than rote learning the whole list.
And there's a really strong community around the Heal Your Headache diet. Do you find that community helps you stick with the diet?
Yeah, definitely. So like I find specifically the Dizzy Cooks recipe group chat is really helpful, because everyone just posts like what foods and like the ingredients list, and then you'll get comments about, oh, this actually isn't okay because it's got this in it. And it helps to kind of remember what you can and can't have. And I've made an Australian page, because I found it really difficult with the Dizzy Cook one that it was all American foods or UK people, and they'd be posting this specific brand of pasta sauce, for example, and we couldn't get it unless you order it on Amazon by the bulk. And so, I find it really helpful to have both the Australian version and like the bigger worldwide group that's following it.
That's great that you've been able to start that group, and it's I think it's still little in Facebook group land, but it's growing very fast, and it's been a great addition to the network of support groups that we have now for migraine in Australia. I'm curious actually if any of you have tried keto. So keto is controversial in migraine land. So there are people like the carnivore lady that Suzanne was talking about before, who push removing all sugar, removing all carbs, and kind of basically living off meat, or a keto type diet, which is, again, removing all carbs. The American Migraine Foundation specifically recommends against a sugar-free or carb-free diet for people with migraine. And the reason they do that is because the migraine brain in the middle of an attack chews through a lot of sugar. And changes in blood sugar, such as going up in sugar or down in sugar really fast, can actually in and of themselves be a migraine trigger. So Renee and Flynn, how have you found managing sugar in your diet?
I find that I did stop eating sugar at one stage, and for a while, it was really hard to stop eating sugar because I'm very reliant on it generally. And I kept it up for 6 months. I don't think I saw any improvement really, but when I started eating again, I just couldn't stop, because I find as soon as I start feeling sick, I just need sugar. And yes, I'm the same as Suzanne though. If I eat too much, that is also a problem. So it's
about finding that consistency, the balance. Yeah. What about you, Renee? How do you find sugar?
I notice a lot in my mood and just generally how I feel, but I don't find it a migraine trigger at all, really. I've tried eliminating it, it was really hard. But probably not for long enough to notice a result. But yeah, since doing Heal Your Headache, I haven't really had a need for it to try it again, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I tried to remove sugar too at one point, and I got so incredibly sick that I'll never do it again. But what I have done is I've changed to low GI. So I get low GI bread, low GI pasta, etc. You find that helps, Suzanne? That kind of...
That definitely helps. It just doesn't, I just don't have these wild swings of blood sugar. I think that really definitely helps.
Yeah. I've actually found the biggest, simplest thing that I've done, because I eat a lot of potato, right? Which, if anybody has done the elimination diet, it's all about potatoes and pears as your safe food. So I switched to the Charisma potatoes that are available at Coles, which are low GI potatoes. And I found that made such a significant difference that they're the only potatoes I'll have now. And all it is about smoothing out those peaks and troughs of blood sugar, which is where the low GI is very useful. Alrighty.
GI brown rice as well, the basmati low GI brown rice. That's really good. That doesn't make you swing wildly either. So that's another really handy thing. Just get it from Coles.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of those slightly healthy eating type products that can have, you know, very different effects in the migraine body, which is kind of, it's a bit trial and error, I think I find, with all of this stuff. And just because, you know, AMF says don't do keto doesn't mean that keto won't work for you. It's just that you have to be aware of what the issue is, which is that blood sugar variation or a very low blood sugar, which sure might help you lose weight. But if it's triggering migraine attacks all the time, it's no good. So that's kind of those things that you need to take into consideration. Of course, you can talk about any of these things with your doctor or go and see a dietitian, ask for a referral to a dietitian. So because we have a chronic health condition, you are able to get a free consultation with a dietitian under a chronic healthcare plan. So it's worthwhile doing. Sorry, Suzanne?
I didn't know that either. So I'm learning something new all the time.
Well, this is what we're doing Migraine Awareness Month for.
Fantastic.
So what you get under the chronic healthcare plan is you get 5 allied healthcare visits, right? So they could be physio, they could be dietitian, they could be a nutritionist, they could be an exercise physiologist, but you only get 5, like combined, right? Yeah. So I think, you know, I usually get 1 from the dietitian every year and a couple of physio appointments. Yeah, so it's worthwhile chatting to your GP about, and it's also why you need to go and see your GP. You know, I kind of sound like a broken record telling people to go and see their doctor about their migraine, but often people don't talk to their GP about their migraine because they think it's this minor insignificant thing rather than something that needs to be managed.
I talked to her about, but she's never mentioned a chronic healthcare plan. So
well, you just have to go and talk to her next time and say, hey, I want to see a dietitian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Alrighty.
I would also like to just point out quickly, like I've never actually had, like I've seen a lot of neurologists in my life growing up with it, and I've actually never had a single one like believe there's a link between my food intolerance and my migraines. So it's actually like if you encounter doctors who are like, yeah, nah, don't listen to them. It's a thing. Just have confidence.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I've had lots of doctors that just say, oh yeah, that's cool, and don't actually, they just sort of blow it off like, you know, all right, yeah, you do.
Look at you like you're an idiot.
But yeah, they just don't see it because it's no, like, I don't know, evidence, I guess, on their part that
they need the clinical trial.
Yeah.
There have actually been clinical trials on all kinds of, you know, I mean, the elimination diet has been trialed to the nth. They know that it works. They know that it works for lots of things. So it's, you know, there is scientific evidence available. It doesn't necessarily appear in neurology journals. So yeah, it can be a little difficult sometimes. But it's like, you know, we have GPs that still think migraine is a vascular headache because they haven't done that little piece of continuing professional development.
I've had a lot that have like said, oh, that's really interesting, and said that they were going to go and research it as well, which is kind of cool. But yeah.
Alrighty. What would be your number 1 tip to somebody thinking about trying a new diet or exploring some diet modifications to manage their migraine, Renee?
I would just say, like, gather your research as much as possible. If you can get to a dietitian, go and see them and just make sure that diet is going to suit your needs. There might be other, you know, medical conditions or anything that might lack any nutrients you need. And mainly, just get as much information as you possibly can and then stick to it for as long as you can. And just make sure that you're researching it as like through what you're doing as well, because as I said, sometimes you slip up and then you get an attack and you think why, but you've got to go back and look at what you might have missed, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Suzanne, what's your tip?
I just think make sure that you're in a right headspace and just make sure that you're feeling really strong and that you're going to be able to manage it, because it is going to, you know, at the end of the day, it's about deprivation, and when you're sick, it's really hard to feel deprived at the same time. But so you're just going to make sure that you're in the right headspace. This could, you know, potentially be life-changing for you. So just try and get it done, even if it's for 3 or 4 months to start with. You know, just have little increments, little goals in front of you. I'll do it for 3 weeks. Okay. And then you get to 3 weeks. Okay, I'll do it for another 3 weeks. Just be strong, stick to it, and just see if it changes your life.
Thank you. That's really great thing to remember, is to take care of your mental health while you're changing anything to do with migraine. Flynn, what's your tip?
Yeah.
Probably like listen to your body, and like part of that is kind of, well, like if it's making you significantly worse, it's probably not for you. But another thing is, like with a lot of food intolerances, if there's something you're intolerant to, you'll often actually crave it. So if you find yourself having cravings for like a specific type of food, if you like, say I was like if I had just accidentally had some salicylates, I will often get like cravings after I've been exposed to it. And then if you're getting like cravings for things that you know are really high in a specific food chemical that you're trying to eliminate, or one you've looked at, that's a suspicious food chemical. Because like, and it's with all kinds of intolerances, like craving what you're not supposed to be eating. Because like I have so many friends who are lactose intolerant, and it's like, you're eating cheese again. They're like, yes.
Guilty.
Yeah. So if it's strong cravings, be suspicious. Listen to your body unless it's trying to lie to you.
My body tells me to drink more Coke and eat more salt and vinegar chips. Is that okay?
I don't know. Well, some cravings are fine, but then some is like suspicious, especially if it's like a really niche thing that you wouldn't normally crave. Like the other day I was craving mint toothpaste. Like
okay, Flynn, that's no helping.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
No, I think there's you get to know the difference too once you start paying attention to what you're eating and what's in what you're eating. So this would be my tip, is to find or start to identify the difference between a craving that is a migraine symptom. So in that prodrome or premonitory phase where things go a bit crazy because the body's just started reacting to that surge of chemicals that is the migraine storm that creates a migraine attack, you'll often crave things, and that's when you crave sugar or you crave salt usually. That's okay to feed the migraine brain that's having, you know, a hard time. That's different to what Flynn's talking about, which is where you take something out of your diet and your body goes, hey, give that back. You know, that's usually that kind of withdrawal type feeling that you get, particularly when you take out something like sugar, which is tough. It's really tough.
And caffeine.
Thank you. And caffeine. Yeah. The ones that have a bit, you know, a little bit of addictive property. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining me for a fantastic chat about diet and migraine, and happy Migraine Awareness Month.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.